Hi, my name is Zaira.
And my name is Alexis.
Throughout this video, we plan to go over the Muslim American culture and as well the educational endeavors they may face, either making them successful or not due to the lack of misunderstandings. These understandings may come from media portrayals, religion misunderstandings, and other portrayals such as Islamophobia, overt and covert racism. We chose this topic because the perpetuation of the cycle of racism will never be broken if it's not talked about, and the education of many Muslim Americans are affected. Before going into the analysis, here are some relevant statistics on Muslim Americans that can grasp the idea behind the challenges they may endure. On a global and national level, this speaks to the complications Muslim Americans face with regards to their educational successes. Now, looking at this map of the immigration of individuals from Asia, Africa, Iran, and the Middle East, it is important to note that the experience that these individuals face are sporadic due to the diversity of populations from around the globe. Therefore, it is hard to separate individuals' experiences to those who practice Islam in the United States and to those who are Muslim. Wright 2012 notes that little is known about Muslim families to public knowledge. However, it is relevant to know as this is the fastest growing population in regards to their Islamic religion. The diversity of the Muslim group is hard to generalize as this group's identity is unique in regards to the waves of immigration, levels of education, religious beliefs, and their assimilation processes. The Islamic faith is the youngest religion in the world and growing in popularity according to Wright 2012. The Quran and the Five Pillars provides us an understanding of the practices Muslim Americans may adhere to. Even though sometimes they are viewed or even seen as negative and violent, these pillars show that the Islamic faith actually preaches peace. The first pillar is about supporting and reciting their own connection to the Muslim faith. The second pillar is centered around the Muslim prayers, which is specifically praying 5 times a day. The third pillar has a central focus on charity or paying 2.5% of their yearly salary. The fourth pillar is fasting during the Ramadan. They spend this month fasting and abstaining from food, drinking, smoking, and sexual activity during the daylight. The fifth and final pillar is known as a trip that every Muslim must go on a minimum of once in their lives. Muslim Americans face many difficulties when it comes to education and the positive/negative views they may have. This may include Islamophobia, which is the irrational fear or discrimination against Islams or those who practice Islam. This has been on the rise because of political climates with regard to terrorism attacks. Not only is there outright racism towards Muslims, there's also covert racism, such as it being subtle rather than being obvious. For instance, in the article by Shaw 2017 in class, we read that the teacher had the students fill out a paragraph with the words such as terrorism, Muslim, and 9/11. This goes to show one of the many ways Muslims' connection to terrorism is formed in our society by being taught in our classrooms, making it hard to break the cycle. Overgeneralizations of this culture, because of misunderstandings, impacts the life of everyday students and leads to these students feeling underrepresented and being misunderstood.
So now moving on to why this topic is important. As a fellow student, I believe that everyone should have the opportunity for a fair education. While clearly this may not be the case currently, it is important to understand what is impeding Muslims' educational success so we can attempt to help. While we have explored several American issues concerning Muslim educational support, there are also boundaries faced within the Muslim community towards support for education, especially for women and young girls in other countries. For instance, in Pakistan, there was a young Muslim girl named Malala who was attacked in 2012 on her way home from school by the Taliban because her father owned a girls' school and participated as an education advocate. This was the Taliban's message that they do not support women education and brought a lot of young girls fear and intimidation. After this incident, she spoke even more in favor and publicly about the need for Muslim girls' education. She won the Nobel Peace Prize in 2014 and is seen as an extremely influential young women's activist, and according to biography.com, even former UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon described Malala as a brave and gentle advocate of peace, who through the simple act of going to school became a global teacher. Malala's story shows that there's a global implication for the Muslim community's struggle to become educated. Specifically, that Muslims, especially young women and girls, are having issues not only in a home country like Pakistan, where Islam is the state religion, but also in America, where Muslims may have immigrated to or been raised. Muslim Americans are more progressive than traditional Muslims throughout gender roles and educational opportunity. However, there is still a culture in place of both Americans and the discrimination and racism they place on Muslim Americans, and the gender role culture of some Muslims that can lead to any Muslim American being dual discriminated against in their educational journey at any one point. So now moving on to some of our final thoughts. With all cultures come complexities with respect to families, upbringings, and overall lifestyle customs, including education. In regards to Muslim Americans, little is known about the efforts in terms of support given to them. This can be attributed to the lack of spotlight on this topic when considering Muslim and Islamic faith. However, it is important to inform ourselves not just of the stereotypes and discrimination, but also for us to seek to inform ourselves to support them in their educational experiences and success. There are some future implications of how we could help support Muslim Americans' educational success. For instance, we can befriend Muslims and provide social support throughout our communities. Also, it is important that people in general are educated and have correct knowledge about Muslim culture and their people as a society, so that we can help avoid this covert racism and even the overt racism that is inaccurate and is heavily affecting student learning. Overall, we want everyone to succeed in their educational journey, and if we can help find ways to avoid this racism and perpetuate support, then possibly Muslim Americans can feel higher rates of acceptance and support towards their education.